Ambassador Elena Vasquez adjusted her simple black suit and smiled as she walked into the Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Confederation. The massive crystalline dome stretched 3 kilometers above her head, filled with the representatives of 47 different species, each more imposing than the last. The Zephyrian delegates towered 4 meters tall with their metallic exoskeletons gleaming under the artificial suns. The ethereal scions floated in their containment fields, their thoughts crackling with visible energy. The ancient Chronari sat in their stone thrones, having witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations for millennia. And then there was Elena, 5'6", brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail, carrying nothing but a leather briefcase that looked almost primitive compared to the holographic displays and quantum computers surrounding her. The chamber fell silent as she reached the central podium. 47 species, representing empires that spanned thousands of star systems, turned their attention to the lone human representative. The weight of their collective gaze would have crushed most beings. Elena's smile only grew wider. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "I come before you today to discuss the future of galactic peace." A rumble of what could charitably be called laughter echoed from the Chronari section. Chancellor Vex Morthak, ancient beyond measure, leaned forward on his throne. "Little human," his voice resonated like grinding stone. "Your species has been part of this confederation for barely 50 rotations. You think to lecture civilizations that ruled the stars when your people were still discovering fire?" Elena's smile never wavered. "Actually, Chancellor, that's exactly why I'm here." She opened her briefcase, an action so simple it seemed almost ceremonial, and withdrew a single piece of paper. Not a hologram, not a quantum-encrypted data crystal, but actual paper made from Earth trees. 3 months ago, the hegemony of 6 declared war on the Trade Federation of Altair. 2 months ago, the Scion Collective began their righteous cleansing of the Outer Rim territories. Last month, the Great Chronari Empire announced its intention to reclaim its ancestral territories from 12 different species. Elena looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. "And yet none of you have fired a single shot." The silence that followed was deafening. Elena continued, her voice carrying the same conversational tone one might use to discuss the weather. "You see, while you were all preparing for your various wars, my government did something very human. We went shopping." She held up the paper. "We bought futures contracts on 6 military-grade durasteel. We invested heavily in Altarian quantum computers. We purchased vast quantities of Scion meditation crystals and Chronari ceremonial artifacts. In fact, over the past year, Earth corporations have become the primary purchaser of war materials, cultural artifacts, and strategic resources from every single empire in this chamber." The Scion representative Zenth Prime flickered with agitation. "What is your point, human? Economic warfare is nothing new." Elena's smile became predatory. "Oh, but that's not the interesting part. You see, we didn't just buy these things. We bought them with very specific contracts. Contracts that included some very human legal concepts that your species never bothered to understand, because you thought they were primitive." She pulled out a pair of reading glasses, an affectation, since her cybernetic enhancements meant she could read the fine print of a contract from orbit, and began to read. "Exclusive supplier agreements with termination penalties of up to 300% of contracted value. Intellectual property licenses that revert all technological developments back to the licensing corporation upon breach of peace treaties. Cultural preservation contracts that make the destruction of any artifacts an act of vandalism, punishable by total asset forfeiture." Elena looked up from the paper. "And my personal favorite, mutual defense clauses that automatically trigger if any signatory attacks another party to the contract." The massive chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates began shouting in dozens of languages, their translation devices struggling to keep up. The 6 hegemony's representative, General Korth-Za, slammed his battle-scarred fist against his podium. "This is preposterous. You cannot bind empires with mere commercial contracts." Elena's smile became almost maternal. "General, you signed these contracts yourself. Your biometric signature is on file with the Galactic Commerce Authority, as are all of yours," she added, gesturing to encompass the entire chamber. "But this is impossible," hissed the Trade Federation representative. "No species could coordinate such a vast economic manipulation. You're absolutely right, Elena agreed cheerfully. No single species could coordinate something this complex. But humans have something you don't. We're absolutely terrible at staying in our own lanes. She gestured, and the chamber's display systems activated, showing a complex web of interconnected corporations, trade routes, and financial instruments that spanned the entire galaxy. While your empires focused on military might and territorial expansion, human corporations, banks, law firms, insurance companies, shipping conglomerates, and consulting agencies spread across the galaxy like a virus. We didn't conquer anyone. We didn't declare war. We just did what humans do best. We got involved in everyone else's business. The truth dawned on the assembled delegates like a collapsing star. Every single empire in the chamber was so thoroughly integrated into the human economic web that declaring war on anyone would trigger a cascade of legal and financial consequences that would bankrupt them. Within a solar rotation, Chancellor Vex Morthak spoke slowly, his ancient voice heavy with disbelief. You have made war economically impossible. Not impossible, Elena corrected gently. Just really, really expensive. Prohibitively so, one might say. The Scion Collective's representative flickered with what could only be described as admiration. Your species has achieved through commerce what the greatest military minds could not accomplish through force. Elena packed her paper back into the briefcase with deliberate care. Gentlemen, ladies, and non-binary energy beings, let me introduce you to a very human concept called enlightened self-interest. It turns out that when everyone's prosperity is tied together, peace becomes profitable. She closed the briefcase with a soft click that echoed through the now silent chamber. Now, unless there are any objections, I believe we have some very important trade agreements to finalize. After all, Elena's smile became radiant, we're all in this together now. As she walked out of the chamber, the assembled representatives of the galaxy's greatest empires could only watch in stunned silence. Behind her, the complex web of human contracts, agreements, and financial instruments hummed quietly in the background, a subtle reminder that sometimes the most devastating weapon wasn't a plasma cannon or a gravitational bomb. Sometimes it was just a human with a briefcase and a really good understanding of contract law. The age of human diplomacy had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.